Number 1.
Brothers, they were 12 and 13. We decided to take our bikes out and go exploring our grandparents' 200-acre plot and some of the land around it. We'd been told don't go farther than a mile, but we were young, so we didn't listen. I don't know how far out we were, but we had been heading in the same direction for around 3 hours. I saw something off to the side though, and I called my brothers to stop. There was this little dilapidated shack standing there. It must have been whitewashed at some point, because it was this weird brownish yellow colour, and a piece of the roof, it was caved in. My brothers, they head straight in for it, but I go around the side and see if there's something in the trees. I get a little closer, and there were dead animals hanging on what seemed to be fishhooks. Possums, squirrels, raccoons, even what looked like a couple of house rats. I stood there ogling for a couple of minutes, realised that the animals were bloody, but they hadn't been shot or gutted, and some of them even looked fresh. So I yell my brothers over, "Come out here, guys." They come around and we all decide this is a pretty cool thing. So we head on into the shed and see what else is out here. My brother, he had already been in there, so he knew where was the bad areas of it. There was a few beaten up pieces of furniture and a big hole in the floor. But I was convinced by my brothers, because I was the smallest, to of course go into the hole. The space was taller than me, and when I dropped in, I walked a couple of feet, heard something growl. It scared the shit out of me, so my brothers dragged me out and we just got the hell out of there. We never talked about it, never told our parents or grandparents, mainly because we knew we'd just get in trouble. It still gives me the chills though. I mean, yeah, it could have been an animal just growling at me, but I've never met an animal that hangs its prey up by fishhooks on a tree.
Number 2.
I work for a security company in Ireland. We mainly deal with alarm calls. If a building alarm goes off, we go in, find out what happened, and then just reset the alarm. At around 2:30 am, I received an activation at a golf club. I arrived a short time later and entered the golf course. I checked the alarm panel, and it was telling me that the alarm was activated by the caretaker's shed. Now, this shed, it's located right at the back of the golf course, around a 3/4 of a mile dirt road. There was a mini forest you had to go through also, and there was no lighting. I set off in the security vehicle, and I arrived at the gates. I got out, followed the headlights, and just opened the gate. But I heard something like it had dropped off the ledge. It kinda made me jump, as it was pitch black and I was alone. I shined my torch around, and I couldn't see anything on the ground. Then I heard faint breathing. It was a calm night, so it wasn't the wind. I used my torch and I had a look around the trees. I didn't think of looking up because I thought there was no need to. As I was scanning the trees though, I saw a small rock fall from one of them, so I shined my torch up into the tree. I saw a shadowy figure in amongst the leaves. I could see his eyes and a bit of his forehead, but everything else was hidden. He wasn't moving or making any noise, but I was shaking right now. I wasn't expecting to see someone in such a remote place. I started cursing and blinding at him, asking what he was doing, but I got no response from him. I didn't know what to do, so after about a minute or so, I just walked really slowly backwards. I turned around to push the gate open, and I heard an almighty thud, as if he had just leaped from the tree. I whipped around my torch, and I couldn't see anything. This is where I froze, because I didn't know what the hell was happening. I started to hear these short bursts of screams coming from elsewhere in the forest. That's when I kinda said, screw it, and I hopped back into my vehicle and just went on down the dirt road. A couple of seconds into driving though, I opened my window a little crack and shined my torch through just to see if I could see anything. There the guy was, standing around 10 yards from the vehicle, running with me. I put my foot to the floor and got the hell out of there. I've never been so scared before in my life. I told my boss at the end of the shift everything that happened, and he said the same thing happened to another driver a few years ago. But he actually called the police, and the police said there were a few junkies, and they squat in that area, and that it could have been one of them just robbing him. I don't know who or what it was, but it freaked the hell out of me. It's safe to say I ain't going back there. Someone else can deal with that call.
Number 3.
My family owns a cabin by a small lake in New Hampshire. We go there every summer, so it's basically our home away from home. There are a few other houses, but it's pretty rural apart from that. Miles of woods stretch beyond the lake houses, so there's no reason for you to be there unless you were hunting, own a lake house, or visiting the lake for whatever reason. So one night, maybe 6 years ago, it was around midnight. Me and my ex, we were just talking in bed. All of a sudden, we heard footsteps outside the window. Now, the window lays only about halfway up on the wall to the side of the bed, and it was situated so that you had to open it from the bottom, where your feet were. The ground around my house, it's covered by a layer of pine needles, so it's pretty hard for you to walk quietly. But whatever was making the noise, they was doing their best and trying not to make noise. They sounded relatively close, but we rationalised it that it was just some sort of an animal. A couple of minutes go by, and we hear them again though. Except this time, they were closer. They seemed to be right outside the window, still trying to move quietly though. At this point, the two of us started to freak out a little. To our mutual horror though, we look down and see a hand slowly coming through the window. Obviously, we scream as loud as we can and wake the house up. My parents come running in from the adjacent room. We tell them what happened, but of course, my father chalks it up to our figment of our imagination. To this day, I don't know if he's right. The weird thing is that both my ex and I saw the same thing, so how could it be our imaginations? I still feel uneasy staying in that room, and I always make sure to shut the window before I sleep.